I was leading a poetry class for high school seniors a number of years ago, and I was introducing them to modernist poetry. And so I quoted for them at the outset of a lecture a very short poem by the modernist poet Ezra Pound. It's a famous poem, partly famous because it's so short. The title of the poem is In a Station of the Metro. And the poem is only 2 lines long. It goes like this. The apparition of these faces in a crowd, petals on a wet, black bough. Now, when I read this poem to the students, I expected to defend its worth to them. It's very short, it's very concrete, it's just 2 descriptions, first of faces in a crowd, and then petals on a bough. But I looked to the front row, and a young lady in the front row had begun to cry. Her eyes were full of tears. There were tears running down her cheeks. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's the right response to this poem. The apparition of these faces in a crowd, petals on a wet, black bough. The economy of language and the beauty of language and the specificity of language is so highlighted by this poem, and the power of that specificity, of that elegant briefness that just gives us these 2 images that helps us, I think, calm ourselves, see concretely, and approach a mood, approach maybe an inner state where emotions, where passions, where the things that make us human are awakened and allowed to live for a moment. Poetry is the opposite of a TikTok video. Poetry is the opposite of an action scene. Poetry isn't about frenzied, quick, distracted movement. Poetry is about slowing down and attending to language, especially, hopefully, if it's fully working in us, attending to our own language, making our own speech more precise, more beautiful, more patient with others. A poem, and I include even poems like the Iliad, which is long and has frenetic action in it. In the end, the complete arc of a poem like the Iliad or of Hamlet, or of more modern poems like, say, the verse novels of Anne Carson or others, they also bring us eventually, sometimes through violence, sometimes through frenetic, distracted activity, to solitude, to meditation on the things that make us human. And so I want to remind us on this channel, as we go forward and talk about things like how poems are made and the formal structures of poetry, that we're talking about this because language matters to us as humans, and care and precision and beauty matter in our language. It's something that poetry reminds us of. It's something that art in general at its best reminds us of. And so I want to say, as we move forward in these videos, I deeply believe that language matters so much to us as humans. And those of us who are very much online, who are watching TikTok videos or Twitter spats about politics or entertainment, remember that language matters. And we can learn to make our language more precise and more beautiful. We can be patient in our use of language, not just frenzied to say the next thing, to be right, to be popular, to be interesting. The enduring interest is always in language that's shaped with care and that touches at those things in us that are enduring and that make us human and that keep us human. In a station of the metro, the apparition of these faces in a crowd, petals on a wet, black bough. That's language that's brief, but it's better constructed than any tweet I've ever read. I don't think Twitter should become full of haikus necessarily, but it may be better for us if it did. We must attend to the words that we have been given, that we've inherited, which are fraught with so many connotations, some bad, some good, some historically complicated, some brand new that we make up. Poetry should help us live our linguistic lives more carefully and more beautifully. Remember that as we talk about literature in general. Thanks.